Conrad.
Oh my God.
Okay. Green means go on these things, right?
I know that one. That one. That's for the Zoom meeting, that's not for the PA system.
Oh, so you're freaking out.
They're all trying to see. Miss Rochelle, how are you doing? Doing all right? I understand, I've been doing this and what else. I'm glad to see you doing well. I have one so far. The second one. I got one. We don't have a facility.
There's a school with you on.
I'm well. I've got a lot of projects in the pipeline. Well, everybody says it's fine. I got several things. I still get the pleasure. Yeah, well, that and some of the stuff we're still developing. There's a lot going on.
Right, we're now at 6:01. Begin to call the meeting to order. Before I do so, members, look at your packs in front of you. That is a new and improved agenda from what you got emailed the other day. We have a few last minute entries. We have a quorum. And I've got another copy of the. So we have a quorum. If you would, please, let's all stand and face the flag and recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Pursuant to Governor Lee's executive order number 16 and subsequent orders, and the need to limit the community spread of COVID-19, the March 25th, 2021 Hartsville, Trousdale County Industrial Development Board will be held with a virtual meeting option. All of our members are here, so I don't think we have any members that are attending via Zoom.
No, sir, we don't have any members that are attending, but Dan Tidcombe with Tennessee Central is attending virtually.
Oh, very good, very good. Welcome, Dan. Ms. Leah, would you call the roll, please?
Hello.
Brian King,
Here.
Scott Graves,
Here.
Robert Thurman,
Here.
myself, Craig Moreland,
Here.
Heather Bay, here, Seth Thurman.
Here. All right, we're all accounted and present. In your packet that I emailed out earlier this week, you had your minutes. Hopefully you've had a chance to go over those minutes and see if there's any deletions, additions, corrections. corrections to those minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion by Mr. Graves to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Have a second by Ms. Bay. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? It so passes, the minutes are approved. We have a treasurer's report. Unless Mr. Thurman would be offended, I'll just read it off. It's pretty simple. We had a beginning balance of $115,555.45. We've only had one transaction, which closes up our transaction history with Mr. Anderson, and Anderson meets the $1,200. He came by and physically picked up a check, so that has been closed. We have an ending balance, $114,000, $355.45. Thank you, Mr. Thurman. Number 8 on your agenda, we had previous discussion about the firm Younger Associates out of Jackson, Tennessee. Our decision is whether or not to engage them for future services as an evaluation on the matrix for potential pilot programs in the future. One of the questions that came up was, if we engaged in advance, how does that help us as opposed to waiting until we actually have a pilot program? The representative from Younger emailed back and said that would typically save you about 2 to 3 weeks of travel time in this process, because they build that basic economic model for our community in advance, so that when we do have a potential applicant for a pilot program, they are more prepared to move forward. That being said, depending on when or how often this happens, the modifiers and the models that they buy that help them, multipliers, I think are the correct word, they use to value this stuff is something that changes frequently. It's almost like an appraisal on a home that changes it every 6 months. So that will always be something that's up in the air about when or how often. Now, if we get 3 pilot programs in the same short period of time, they may not have to rebuy those multipliers, but if we don't get one for 2 years, they'll have to buy them again. So that's something that nobody can really predict. The services to get them to do the model in advance, and I guess it's, sort of a retainer, is $1,500. We would need to make a decision tonight on whether to move forward on that. It's possible and likely that there are avenues and grant opportunities for us to recover and be reimbursed by those fees. And we'll hit on that a little bit later with Eric. He's going to talk about his progress, if any, on that. But does anyone have any further questions about Younger Associates? Yes, Chris.
Other than the $1,500 retainer, would we then go ahead and buy a set of limbs, or would we wait until we had a pilot program?
Well, I'm going to, at any point in time, Mr. Rochelle, we are joined by Mr. Bob Rochelle of Rochelle, McCulloch and Aulds. He is the foremost authority in this area of anywhere in our land that we can find. And I have the wonderful pleasure of having a meeting with him, and it was very enlightening. He's very, very helpful, and we're blessed to have him here tonight and thankful for his time. So if I misspeak, Mr. Rochelle, please correct me. I take direction pretty well. But no, we would not buy them until we have an active application, because if they buy them now, we don't get an application for a year, then we got to buy them again. But the basic economic model that they build, they take all the demographics, population, basic economy, and they start building a platform to work from.
Would there be the possibility of passing the $300 as a pass-through cost of the pilot applicant?
There are application fees that are associated, if I'm correct in this, Mr. Rochelle, there's application fees that get associated with each particular application. That application fee is largely set up, as I understand it, based on the scale of the project. because that is a moving thing. A very small company might have this figure, a very large company might have a completely different figure. If I understand the layman's terms of all this correctly, and I'm learning like you guys are, the board essentially does not incur any costs in the end. That gets passed along in some form or fashion along to the applicant or whatever with the fees. So in the end, it's going to cost the board any money, if I'm correct. Is that about right, Mr. Rochelle? Okay. And we are very, very lucky to have Mr. Rochelle here to help us guide through this, and he's going to speak in a few minutes and answer any questions. He works with the younger associates on a regular basis. I think he's very familiar and knows them well. So he gave me confidence in that meeting that he felt good about our. Now, if I am failing to give you the proper information, and you want to keep this down until Mr. Rochelle has a chance to speak, he might answer better than I. She's the most experienced man in the room on this stuff.
I personally think that'd be a good idea.
Mr. Rochelle, would you mind speaking with us? Mayor can give you a microphone. And maybe you can kind of give us a little overview of what we will be getting into with younger.
Yes. Make sure I got it on. Yes, it's on more than I want to. I want to thank you for having us here. I have a long connection with Trousdale County. I represented this area in the state senate for 30 years and worked with a lot of folks. One thing I noticed was that I guess this is the first meeting I've been to, governmental meeting where Ms. Ford was not present. So she was a fixture here for so many years, and I know it's still active in things with some limitations. I started representing the Industrial Development Board of Wilson County in 1977, 78. It had been created because somebody came in and wanted to make a deal, and then there were some difficulties, and so I was the county attorney in Wilson County at the time. I came in to sort of straighten out the difficulties and have been there since. We adopted an incentive program in 2006 for personal property. We adopted an incentive program in 2010 for real property. I want to tell you how that works. But the first thing I want to tell you is there's no exact perfect way to do it. One of the things I want to emphasize to you is that if you set up an incentive program, you want a program where people feel like they've been able to participate. It's got to come with the support of this board. It has to come with the support of the county commission, county officials like Mayor Chambers, and it's got to be something that there's a general consensus on. And so I know how Wilson County has done it. I have some general ideas as to some others, and but I don't mean to represent to you that there's any prepackaged plan out there that's designed for a county of your size or whatever. Dan has done a lot of work on looking at what different communities have done, and I worked with Dan at Tennessee Central. I also represent them. And so Dan will be a valuable resource for us and sort of seeing what your options are and making sure that the community participates in that process of seeing what the options are. So let me tell you how Wilson County works. An industrial development board has a unique power. It has the power to own property. In Tennessee, as in every other state in the country, property that's owned by a governmental entity, such as this, is exempt from property tax. In the normal circumstance these days, what you would do is if you had a company that was interested in coming to Trousdale County, they fill out the application that you prepared for them, including the information that younger associates needs to be able to make an evaluation of it. You would have prepared by then ahead of time an incentive plan that says, here's what we can do. In Wilson County, that's based on a bunch of different factors. It basically says, and it was adopted by the county commission there. Whenever they do a pilot, unless another city of London or city of Mount do it, we arrange in the agreement that they're to be paid their full taxes unless they agree to that, to a waiver. So, county commission, through the incentive plan, will authorize this board to enter into agreements with companies that desire to participate in the plan. That company would come in and purchase a piece of property. Normally, they purchase the property. At the closing, they would deed that property to the industrial development board for $10. The industrial development board would then lease back to the company that particular piece of property. And based on the analysis by Younger, according to the criteria set by your plan, in Wilson County, you would get from 1 to 7 years tax abatement. There's all sorts of little angles I can tell you to give you an example. In Wilson County, one concern was, we've got this piece of land out here that's bringing in $2,000 a year in taxes. And so when they set up the program in 2006, they said, we don't want to lose any money. So they said, okay, what we'll do with personal property is that we'll say, you got to pay 90% or you got to pay 10% of the value of the personal property, the taxable equivalent tax. Got to pay 10%, and then we're only dealing with a exempt status of 90%. That amount almost always equals that $2,000 that the county had been getting, just from vacant land. That's how local considerations, concerns with county commission can come into play. It's the only county in the state I know that does that, but there was a reason for it. In 2010, we went to the real property section incentive program just for the purpose of remaining competitive with Montgomery County, Clarksville, Murfreesboro, Rutherford, Sumner, and Gallatin. The folks that for Middle Tennessee, we needed to have something to offer on an incentive plan. And so what they came up with was, what is the purpose of giving a company a tax break? What kind of expenses have they incurred that we need to try to offset? Well, clearly, you're not looking at whether they make a profit or not. You're looking in Wilson County, they decided really what we're interested in doing is compensating them for the expenses they have in moving their company to a new location. Makes sense. So then they look at how much you're going to pay folks. We don't want somebody coming in offering $2 an hour less than what our existing companies are offering, because you're not going to be able to hire folks to do it. So we consider how much they pay. Also, at that time, health insurance was a major thing. You pick up points if you provide health insurance for your employees. A big factor is how much investment are you making in the community, on that location. And depending on your points, then you can qualify for up to 7 years on an incentive plan where for real property, it's 7 years for both real and personal. For real property, you would basically, if you qualify, you basically pay no property tax on that 200 acres we were talking about. including any taxes on the building that you construct. And then the personal property, including any equipment that you install. Now, the average, I have to tell you, is 3 to 4 years. 7 years in the big picture is not a very long time. We've been through a situation where Dale had come and the local officials between Wilson County and Lebanon, Rutherford and Murfreesboro and Davidson, Mayor Rutherford at that time, they got into a bidding war. And Wilson County and Lebanon lost the bidding war and got the project. They give them a 40-year tax-free. It all worked out. They'll faltered and had to cut back its operations, and Wilson County was able to get out of the deal after about 6 or 7 years. So the thought was that if you try to gear your incentive plan so that you're not put into that, having to get into a bidding war to get a company, where you give away a lot more than you had to give away. And so that's the type of decision that you would be called upon to make in determining your incentive plan. So there's 2 things to do if we're retained as your attorneys. Once, we got to go through your rates and see where I think the board may have originally had a filing in, well, I think it may have been 1964. Then there was a reactivated or something happened about what, 2000, that got the board started back again. It's the board of Hartsville and Trousdale County. So we got to look at it. Was it formed by just Trousdale County and all of Hartsville, Trousdale County? Was it done by both city and county governments? Whenever we get to a closing, as we're working with the lawyer for the company and bond counsel, they're going to say you're on solid ground. So we have to check the Secretary of State's office and make sure you're certified for properly registered. We think you are. We have to look at, get a certified copy of the original county commission resolution. They created them, the original city council resolution, if there is one, created them, and all of that. We furnish that sort of information, documentation to the council. I want to stay open for questions, but let me switch then to what our cost to you is. This is the same type of arrangement we have in Wilson County. I also represent the Health and Educational Facility Board in Wilson County, and it's the same type of fee structure we have at Fee. We're working on that, on matters involving the incentive plan. We're not talking about it gets sued because somebody gets hurt or gets sued because of something else. That'd be a different matter. What we'd be dealing with is putting you in the state to be able to offer an incentive program to a company. And very frankly, that's all we had to ever do with Bell and Hidwood and the Industrial Development Board in Wilson County. As to that, you don't pay as to the incentive plan. The cost is not on the board. We have I set out the amount. If, let me get started this way. The company says we're interested. We want to basically set some type of fee up front that'll cover the cost of younger. And give you credit for it if the deal goes through. Then you may or may not desire to charge a board premium. Wilson County does a board premium. Our fee is 0.0005% of the maximum amount that the board allows as part of the deal. So if it's at 200 acres and they're going to build a $50 million building or $50 million investment land and facility and personal property, that percentage will apply to the 50 million. And we take that percentage paid by the company, and that's how we make money off of it. we also made it to folks that if they need something later, they need it. Oh, to get it, when it's finished, when that 7-year period's up with, you need the property back over that. And so if they need help in getting that resolution, if they want to refinance in the middle of the 7-year period, they have to have the board approval. We handle those type of things for them. We put in the original agreement, they're responsible for any charges as of that, but as of yet, we haven't had any charges to them. So it's set up in that instance to where the company that can come in has some expense. That part, if they're financing it, they're usually a bank, that or a group of investors, that charge is added on to them, they're going to finance. They're also have to pay nationally recognized bond counsel. These are lawyers who are specialized in approving these type of deals. And they have to sign that their professional opinion as a nationally recognized bond counsel, that all the documentation, the nature of the deal, everything has complied with state and federal law. I have to certify to the owners of those notes or bonds that I'm satisfied in my professional opinion that this board is lawfully constituted and that all portions of the proceedings in regard to that issue have been legal. I'm trying to think, let me suggest, if you don't have any particular thing you're thinking about or that we might be able to address. I think I've covered my major points. I did want to introduce Elliot Benson. Elliot is a new member of the firm, and he's a student graduate of UT and Ole Miss Law School. We lost it to Ole Miss. But Ole Miss had a reputation for an excellent law student. Elliot's working with us. As you can tell by my hair and the loss of it, I've been older, and I don't take on any new cases. This is the first new client that I've taken on, if it works out, in several years. Elliot, we brought him to work with me and other lawyers at the office with the expectation he's going to move into that role and be there for a continuing basis for the future. His dad is the director of schools at the Lebanon Special School District, and I represent them. So through the representation, we built a strong connection. Now, who's got a question about something? Have I explained to you sort of how the deal works? The only thing I didn't explain to you is that if you're going to finance it, there's, and the way this works is, company wants to build a $50 million project. They go to the bank, they say, let's work the deal, you will lend us $50 million. They then bring the deal to us, and the property is deeded to the Industrial Development Board, and then the Industrial Development Board executes a note payable to the lenders and puts a trust deed on the property to secure the payment of the note to the lender. A little complicated, but that way, that's how normally they get financing for larger projects. For Amazon and some of these other companies, they have a lender technically involved in a lot of those, but it's usually some type of affiliated institution that works with a larger company. We had an Apple come in, Apple's got enough money, had planned for the expansion, I don't believe they financed it. They just had a deed to the board, lease back to Napa at the end of the period, board conveys it back to Napa.
It's a very complex lawsuit, well, overwhelmed by it, so just, opposed it, starting. a very complex creature. And we need professionals like the associates, Mr. Rochelle's firm, to guide us through that effectively, so we don't have mistakes, but essentially that idea is a nonprofit tax-free board, we don't pay taxes, so we're entering into the deal to help incentivize a company to relocate here and bring jobs and revenue into our community. And it's sort of a paperwork thing where the property gets transferred into our name and then the money passes through us in lieu of taxes. It's sort of the same thing they're calling it different now. But this point system, that the matrix that we talked about, get points for whether you have health insurance, and how many employees, or how many of those employees are going to make X amount of dollars. That's what they, how many part-time employees. Very, very complex. You can do that very committed, say, okay, this is what you can offer. If you offer beyond this, you're giving more than you're getting in return as a benefit to that company to be it. Well, if we're going to give way more than our benefit, why do we do that? We want to do as much as we can.
I have one question, Mr. Rochelle. Not only property taxes, the investment, that we have things such as building permit fees, impact fees. Are they normally included in pilots or not?
Normally not. I have to say to you, in most of our deals, the county alone acts, the city alone, we put in a pilot, you'll pay 100% of what would otherwise be due to the city level. But on the other hand, Lebanon's the one that charges most of the capacity fees and such as that. And they have a public works department, which the county does not have. And Lebanon more than does its share in providing assistance. They have some ability to waive portions of those fees. And so that's how the capacity fees and public works, if they need a road built in, the city can apply out to the state for transportation grant to build a city road. And they provide a great deal of assistance coming in. Now that road, Hartsville, they try to look into does it, but really depends on how the county commission desires to proceed. Those are pretty much individual issues for the project.
So they would be pretty much on a case by case basis.
Yep. Okay. Normally it would not. I've never had one in a pilot address that issue.
And it's my understanding, if I'm correct, that these are things, it's sort of like 10 different people cooking the same recipe at home. They're so valuable and customizable for this particular deal and that particular company. And you try to find that balance where we are properly incentivizing this company to be located here in Redmond and all at the same time. So you want to straddle limits where you get a cost benefit of the return on investment for helping them. This, if they're going to come in and spend, say, $50 million, this helps them abate some of those taxes and kick them down the road just a little bit and give them a little breathing room to make it to where they're generating some revenue and not
Has to start.
right. So we're, it's an incentive program. We're not building a new football stadium, but we're trying to incentivize them to move here. So we can hopefully capture new jobs and revenues and ultimately higher property taxes on an undeveloped or unoccupied piece of property there.
And that's the advantage that you're going to emphasize, we're going to emphasize to the county commission. If you can defer getting new money, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, you may want to go to 10 years. If you can defer that, then we can set up a way where that structure is going to be there. That bill is going to be there at the end of the incentive period, and that money is going to come on. And then you can use the money then for improvements to your schools. And I don't think you need any improvements to your roads. You got the best road system. But it's available then that you can improve the quality of life for citizens.
Need a motion, don't you? So listening to your comments earlier, in the event that a company comes in, we agree on a pilot program, they get up and running and they fail. Let's say 3 years into a 5-year deal. So there's language in the contract that your firm writes that then gets us back out of that deal. So they can't just sit there owning the property and not paying any taxes for the duration of the period.
Well,
Is that correct?
kind of. And the way the deal works pretty much guarantees that. We have not used fallback type provisions, saying if you don't do this and you don't qualify more, you don't money back. Well, let's use your example of a bankruptcy after 3 years. First off, it's going to be under the supervision of the bankruptcy court. The pilot agreement is going to say, if you fail to continue an operation, then you have to give us notice within 6 months. And then you've got 6 months or a year in which to remedy the default. We've had one or two. We had one from Italy to go bankrupt in Italy. And if there's a bank involved, the bank comes in, they take over operation. They look into some of the bankruptcy court properties conveyed to the bank. We would have to agree to allow the banking break, probably would not. Because of that notification period and grace period for curing the default, that's a pretty accurate time to allow the bankruptcy court, which is very slow proceeding. In the instance we had, the bank came in, took over the property, by basically they foreclosed on the lease. And they foreclosed on the lease of the personal property. And then they turned it over to a real estate agent. They went out and helped us find another company, came in, took over the building, most of the equipment, and to juice it up and make it work, we gave them, I think they 5 years, and then used up 3 of them. We gave the new outfit those 2 years to get started, and the bail things out. We don't want anybody to go bust, but if it happens, there are mechanisms there that it's going to sit there vacant, could sit there vacant for a year and a half. But that's how that's addressed.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I do.
Yes.
First and foremost, Mr. Rochelle, I would like to thank you for your life's passion. Your reputation is impeccable. The industry in Tennessee has blossomed because of your stepping stones that you placed as a forefather for industry and development in the state of Tennessee. And thank you. And you have some big shoes to fill, Mr. Benson. So, but I know your dad, so I figure you can stand up to the bar. So, but I've got some concerns about the fact that, and I'd like to bring back to the conversation that you had earlier about where you had multiple counties that were working against each other for a project. Dale was one of them, and then actually Wilson County acquired them. And you're working with Dan, and you're working with, and you do work with Wilson County, possibly the city of Lebanon, some. So do you see that this will actually be any form of conflict of interest, or is not a project that you, Mr. Benson, would be working on, or I understand it's an amazing resource to help each other out with knowledge, but what about when it gets to actually locking in the final formula for us to be with a completed pilot program?
2 things. The history of things is that because of connections with public officials, the Joe Bell, over the years, so many folks there were so many connections with Wilson and Trousdale. Wilson's DUCDB, which I represent. When they first started out, they instructed the executive director, listen, we have a project that we can't, that doesn't fit us. That it's either too small to meet the requirements of the give much of an incentive period thing, or if it's for any reason, if they're looking for a building and we don't have a building like that, something to try. So it's that historical connection that really, it's not written down anywhere, it's not talk about that much, but it's a little brother concept out there. And so the other thing is, you're not gonna have that many instances where you're gonna have a conflict between Sumner, Wilson, whatever. That's part of the process of working out your incentive plan. You gotta look at your strengths. You gotta look at your weaknesses. You gotta look at where you got a good reputation. You gotta look at, maybe we're hurting yourself. The way you're hurting transportation. You don't have the best road system. You have an interior roads and traffic, but to get to I-40, to get to I-65, it's a further distance than it is in Wilson County. Same type of facility, same type of thing, but Rutherford and Williams and some of the others. Your strengths, you got a history of being stable. You got a history of forward thinking, action. That's our government. Your school system. In the past, it's been a country rural system. Right now, your school system is viewed as the up and coming. You put money from CCA down here into your school system. And that can pay enormous benefits from an economic development point of view, because it creates a good impression. When the school system is viewed as rising, it makes it a lot easier to sell the owner of the company, and sometimes more importantly, the wife of the owner of the company, that this is a place where my kids can get good education. This is a place where our workers, a lot of whom come with them, and they care about them, and they want them to live in a community that's got a good education system, and it's safe, and has a good road system. So you got those things. When you're going through and deciding on what your incentive plan is, that's where you've got to decide, and the community has to decide, including principally the county commission, is where are we strong, where possibly here will we? Do we need 7 years? Do we need 5 years? I would think probably not. That would put you too much alike. I've been thinking about this since we got our meeting. I'm thinking you may want to go something like 8 years or 9 years, some little edge over what Wilson has. And I think with Dan's help, we can find out. Because I never had a reason to go to trial to go to Sumner County or Rutherford County to try to get copies of their pilot agreements or the percentage and plans and stuff. And discussing it and then deciding what type of incentive program you want to offer. You have to consider that. I don't think conflict will be part of it. In addition, I spoke with D.C. Hickson and Mayor Hutto, told them what we were going to be meeting about, and the delegate is going to be coming with me. And the mayor said, "But it's good boy, good, son, great, see what you can work out." I think I don't know whether it was Mayor Hutto or Mayor Hutto's former boss hired Scott. So, like I said, it all works out. So it's an action man, a good man. He's worked for us for 3 years as an intern. I can see why some people respect him for his abilities and demeanor and personality. That answer your question?
Any other questions?
I think we would be lucky to have an association, a firm like you all representing us, and I feel y'all have the reputation. Feel like you've been here before. You're familiar with what we have going on here in Trousdale County. I think you will give us the best options and lay it on the table for us to move forward on this adventure. I know it's not cookie cutter, but I think with your experience teamed up with Mr. Benson, his young ideas, I think it'd be a perfect combination for Trousdale County and Hartsville. And I would like to make a motion that we retain Younger and Associates to represent us and to build our baseball.
Before we do that, let's back up to number 8, which is on the agenda and over is Younger Associates. So let's
Okay.
about that first.
Yeah.
If there are anyone that has or something regarding.
All right, let's do that. Yes, I do.
All right, so I have a motion from Mr. Morley to engage Younger Associates for future pilot programs, and you all have a copy of their engagement letter. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Ms. May. Is there any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It so passes. We will engage Younger Associates. Number 9. Back to Mr. Morley.
Yes.
Mr. Morley would like to make a motion of correct to engage Mr. Rochelle, Rochelle for future pilot programs. We have a copy of this letter that as well.
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Green. So we have questions or discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It so passes. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Help us. Now we're going to move down to number 10 on our agenda. We had discussed at the last meeting formalizing requests on a couple of grants. I don't know that actually anything has happened. I'm going to turn it over to the mayor and see if he's going to set up that.
I believe those grants, they're gonna go in front of the Tennessee Central Board at their April 23rd meeting. So that's, and then we will get a better update on that meeting. And that should be the expenses related to the Anderson Lee House located out in Industrial Park. And the expenses related to retaining Younger and Associates and kind of speaking of being, we thought internally, since that is going to benefit Tennessee Central through recruiting Michigan and PowerCom, and right now it is an available industrial land. We thought that would be a couple more expense in that grant program. So that's where that stands on. If Dan's on my eyes, and he wants to add anything further.
Dan, can you hear us?
I'm here. I have a really hard time hearing. There's a lot of reverb. What's the question?
I'm basically asking if you wanted to, just asking if you wanted to update or provide any further updates on the grants from requests from the IUB that's going to go in front of the Tennessee Central Board at the April 23rd.
I think I hear you asking if I have an update pertaining to a grant application. Is that correct?
Yes.
I do not. Our next board meeting is next month, April 23rd. I imagine it'll be voted on then, but all the conversations I've had regarding it say that it qualifies, it's eligible, but it would be Charlie Lyons would be the one to hand down the final decision to everyone.
Thank you, Dan. So not much activity was happening on it yet, but it is in process. We made the formal request of the board in writing to the mayor with the minutes that were included. The mayor has put forth that request towards Tennessee Central. The board is meeting, if I understood the mayor right, on April the 23rd to consider those grant requests. So hopefully at our next meeting, we may have word on that. Number 11 on the agenda is a retail strategies update. Not too much has happened unless the mayor has something I don't know about. We do have a scheduled Zoom meeting on April the 14th at 10 a.m. Just got, is that correct? Just got confirmation today.
I believe it's April 14th at 9 a.m.
Or 9, okay, I'm sorry. Mayor, I did reach out to Laura and asked her to loop in the entire board on those Zoom requests. So board members, if you did not get a request for that and you'd like to attend, hopefully you'll get an email the next day or two on that. You can attend if you like. I think what that meeting is going to entail is the strategic plan. They've been doing some of the groundwork and the base model platform for them to work off of for our community. They came up, we had a nice long meeting and did a walkabout with them in town a couple of months ago. And I think I think they're ready to present to us their game plan on how to move forward and how they're going to serve us in our community. So I'm pretty excited about that meeting as well. Number 12, other business. I'm going to introduce, and this is kind of a last minute thing, but we've had the benefit over the last couple of months of having a couple of meetings with the good folks at Tennessee Central, Mr. Lyons and Mr. Dan and Kelsey, with some gentlemen who have come out of, I think, partially New Jersey, and they're interested in locating some businesses here in our community, and I'm pretty excited about it. And they call it the Patriot Project. And I'm going to introduce him and let them kind of tell it to you directly because I'm subject to screw it up. But I think, as I understand correctly, they're potentially interested in bringing 3 manufacturing businesses. I think their model or their mantra is they're patriots. They're American patriots. They are involved or have been involved in the military. And they're concerned about the state of our country and some of its essential supplies and products that are outsourced to overseas companies, largely to countries that don't care for us. And if they took a notion to cut us off, they could. And these folks are wanting to bring some of these services back to our country. I think we all in this room and everybody in this community are 100% behind that effort. They are interested in bringing 3 businesses here. One is a manufacturing business of a component of ammunition. It'd be a primer, a component of the ammunition, not the entire ammunition, but the component. The other is a portion, they have an existing factory in New Jersey that makes ceramics that are used in communication and intelligence devices, I believe, if I'm correct. And they have a portion of it that they need to separate from that manufacturing process to prevent contamination. It'd be a component of the dielectric components that I think they're talking about bringing something like that. He can talk about it more intelligently than I can. And then also even a pharmaceutical branch that would encompass penicillin. Something as simple as penicillin is not even produced here in America anymore. So I'm going to introduce Don McCoy and Dan DeClement, one or the other or both, but step up to the microphone, introduce yourself and just tell us what you can about what your plans are. And I would like to say on behalf of the board and Hartsville, Trousdale County, welcome. We're proud to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for hospitality and for inviting us to join you tonight. Don and I are in the process of wanting to bring some manufacturing. What you're referring to is I run and own a company in New Jersey that manufactures piezoelectric ceramics, mainly used for naval sonar. Is the use of those ceramics. And our biggest competitors are Chinese for what we do. One of the offshoots of what we make is dielectric ceramics because of contamination issues between piezoelectric ceramics and dielectric ceramics, which are used in capacitors. We're going to be moving that into a facility. We'd like to do that at the PowerCom site is where we're looking. So that's, and it's most of those products are used in military applications. There were high dielectric ceramics and or capacitors, but mainly are used in defense applications. Main supply of those has become Chinese, unfortunately. I also used to run a big tank fermentation company, which is how penicillin was made. There's no US-based penicillin. It was a project we're studying with Middle Tennessee State University with Tony Johnson there, Professor Johnson. That would be the business we would want to, if we can do that, to put at that site also. And then together with a primer for for ammunition that we would like to put on that site. And a lot of that material production has moved overseas also. And my company, like chemists and our engineers, have a lot of experience dealing with the component and constituents that go into manufacturing. It's called that site made as the main material, and we use that in our process somewhat.
I think one of the things that was most exciting for me to hear about this project is they're not coming in here like Google or Facebook and bringing in a lot of PhDs from Silicon Valley. These are going to be skilled labor jobs that they're going to be having. So it's very possible that we could employ a lot of our local people and teach them new trades and skills and be, good paying jobs, hopefully. And I'm excited about that. We are essentially and I say this affectionately, we're a blue collar community, and I like that. We're not all brain surgeons. We work with our hands, although most of us, and we're proud of that. And this community was built off of the back of hard work with your hands. And so I'm excited about what you're bringing to the community.
We believe that manufacturing is a great thing to bring to a community. We have seen in our own company that the growth of the employees and the pay and the real skills. These are learning machinist skills and chemistry skills. And yes, in our company, we do have PhD level people, but we have everything from high school educated to PhD level. And we anticipate in all three of these companies, we have the same thing.
Awesome.
And Don's background.
My background is not in manufacturing. My background is in special operations. So a couple of years ago, I decided that I was getting a little long in the tooth for what I've been doing for a long time, and I needed to redefine myself. So I went back to school, and that's how I met Dan last year. We were working together while I was at Harvard, and we started talking about how we thought that it was a national crisis that some of our strategic supply chains have been moved overseas. In particular, the antibiotics it's almost terrifying. Right now, there is no other country in the world besides the People's Republic of China that's making antibiotic components. If we went to war with them right now, that would be the equivalent of Nazi Germany or Japan controlling our antibiotic supply in 1942. In 2 weeks, they can empty our shelves. And that's something that we need to address as a nation. And Dan and I decided that it was time for somebody to do something, and we were going to get together and do it. And due to my lovely wife's advice, her family's been from Tennessee since 1799, and she said, well, you should look at Tennessee. We came to Tennessee in June, and we moved here in September. And it's not hyperbole to say that every day we look at each other and say, thank God for Tennessee. God bless Tennessee. So thank you for having us, and we really look forward to working together.
Thank you.
I'm going to read briefly because I think they both kind of downplayed their history credentials. Don is a 10-year veteran of the U.S. Army and Special Forces. As a non-commissioned officer, he also had 17 years service as paramilitary operator for the Special Activities Center of the Central Intelligence Agency. He has a long history in his military service to our country, and we're grateful for that. Thank you very much. When he got out of the military, he received a BS degree from Texas A&M University and a BA degree from Arizona State University, summa cum laude.
as well as a master's degree from Harvard Kennedy School of Government with a concentration on management, leadership, and development. Dan founded TBT Group Incorporated in 2007, has been facilitating technology transfer between universities and commercial markets for 25 years. He also led a turnaround of Polybac, am I pronouncing that right, Incorporated, a leading manufacturer of biological products used in the wastewater treatment industry. He grew up in the company before selling it to he grew the company, I'm sorry, before selling it to a competitor in that industry. Afterwards, he founded TBT Group, a materials company on the cutting edge development of revolutionary new products and processes involving both piezoelectric, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, it's a big word for someone like me, piezoelectric, dielectric, and dielectric materials. He received his BA from St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia. Welcome to our community. We will try not to hold it against you because you bought a home in Wilson, but you're welcome anyway. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We wish you all the luck in the world, and I want you to know that everybody in this room wants to help you. We want you to see you succeed. So if you need anything, reach out. We have a wealth of people here that would be happy to help you if we can.
Thank you, sir.
We're now down to number 13 on our agenda, public comments pertaining to this agenda. If there's anyone in the public that would like to know, not sure, Mr. Joel.
Would it be necessary or needed from a legal standpoint for the board to give you authority to execute these documents with them, or has that already been done?
No, I don't think it has, but I think it would be good specificity for us to do that. Let's just go ahead and hold a quick vote on both of those.
It's not necessary.
But I don't think it takes a second, we can knock it out. Let's entertain a motion giving the chair authorization to engage and sign a letter with younger associates to engage them in the future. Would somebody like to make a motion to that effect?
Make that motion.
Mr. Graves makes the motion, Mr. Moreland makes the second. Do I have any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? If so passes. Also, I would entertain a motion, if you would so, to give the chair authorization to sign a contract and engage with Rochelle, McCulloch and Aulds, Mr. Bob Rochelle and Mr. Elliott Benson as our attorney representatives on future pilot programs. Would anyone like to make a motion to that effect? We have a motion from Mr. Thurman, a second from Ms. Bay. Is there any questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And so passes. Thank you, Mr. Joel. I think that's probably good specificity. Make sure that's right. I told you I needed supervision. If there's no public comments tonight, then I would entertain a motion for adjournment. And before you do that, we'll stop. We had lately been meeting every month, and I think I would like to continue that unless anybody has any strong objective. We have a lot of things going on. I potentially would like to examine the possibility of moving next month's meeting to the third Thursday and not the fourth. I'm just going to put that out there. Then I will reach out to you and we'll see what's available with Miss Amy and our facilities. The reason for this is the Industrial Development Board of Nashville, Davidson County meets on the fourth Thursday, and I think it could be educational for me to go down there and sit in on a big time meeting and see how the grown-ups do it. So I want to try to be available on that night. They're meeting now as we speak. So I'll reach out to you and try to make sure that we get the most convenient time for everybody. I know it's hard for you guys to get there. So, motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Graves is a motion to adjourn. Mr. Moreland's a second. All in favor? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll double check and move some time to reach out to you, but we just need to weather commit. Yeah, I mean, you can't do anything about the weather. I didn't expect rain.